Davidson. I'm the Executive Director of the Alaska Airmen Association. I am here with the Airmen team at the CubCrafters facility in Yakima, Washington to complete your CarbonCub FX-3. And we're so excited to show it to you. First, I have to remind everybody how you can buy tickets for this amazing raffle. So operators are standing by. You could call right now, 907-245-1251 and purchase tickets. You can get one for $65, 5 for $300, or 10 for $550. There's a ton of other awesome prizes. There's 2 round-trip tickets anywhere Alaska Airlines flies. There's a set of 31-inch bush wheels. There's a private glacier tour in a DC-3, which I can't believe. There's tons of great stuff. So check out alaskaairmen.org to get a full list of prizes. I also want to take a moment to introduce the Airmen team. This is who you guys are calling and talking to when you're buying tickets. You want to start over here for me, Alyssa?
My name's Alyssa. I'm the financial administrator here.
My name's Melinda. I'm the outreach assistant.
My name's Will. I'm the operations coordinator.
And then I want to introduce, so I have an opportunity to brag on him. This is Aras. Aras has been a member of our NextGen board for years. That's our youth aviation club. He's also a 3-time scholarship winner.
Yes.
He is a 3-time scholarship winner with the Airmen, and he's a recent graduate of the University of Anchorage A&P program. And it's thanks to the generosity of Alaska Airlines, who helped fund the travel for this trip, that people like Aras can come and participate in this amazing build. Can you tell us a little bit of some of the cool things you got to do today?
This is amazing. So got to finish up the final touches on the Cub, getting it ready for the certification process tomorrow with the FAA, and just getting to see it in person. Just absolutely spectacular. This airplane is amazing.
Did you get to sit in it and make airplane noises?
Yes. Oh, 100%. Airplane noises in the front seat is the way to go.
Yes. Awesome. Well, cool. Well, without further ado, let's talk about the airplane. That's what everybody wants to talk about. So I'm going to have Zach Davidson from CubCrafters join us. And remember, you can comment with your questions. So we're reading the comments, so let us know what kind of questions you have about this airplane. And I'm going to turn it over. You guys dive in.
Okay. Zach, will you give everybody here who's maybe not seen this airplane before an overview?
Yeah, so the aircraft that we've decided to build, and Alaska Airmen have decided to build, is an FX-3, 186 horsepower, fuel injected, light homing, 2,000 pound gross weight, constant speed propeller. If you see, it's a 3-blade propeller. Cruise speed 120 range to 130, stalls around 40, 44 gallons of fuel on board, and we've done some certain special touches for you guys with the baggage compartment being powder coated, tandem obviously, 31-inch tires, Acme shocks.
Let's dive in. Can you tell us a little bit more about that engine?
Sure.
Point out what we're looking at here.
So it's fuel injected. Intake plenum is made in house, carbon fiber. 3-bladed prop. Lycoming CubCrafters 363i, 186 horsepower.
Zach, why'd you go with the 3-bladed prop?
The 3-bladed prop is a little smoother. It's an 80-inch 3-blade. So we have an 80 and an 83-inch 2-blade, but this is very new.
What's the significance of that extra blade and also the 80 inches itself? Why would somebody want that?
It really depends what your mission is. With 80-inch, you get a little bit more ground clearance. 83, you go a little bit closer to the ground, but not much. The 3-blade's a little smoother, and we're waiting to see the performance differences, what they are, if there are any yet.
Okay.
So it's still very, very, very new.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you and I were talking earlier, we were talking about it being fuel injected.
Correct.
But then you were talking about some pretty amazing fuel burn statistics. Can you talk a little bit more about what people will see when they fly this?
Yeah, so your average cruise, you'll burn probably about 9 gallons an hour, 8 to 9 gallons an hour. You can burn up more if you push your power settings up higher, but your typical cruise, you'll burn about 9 gallons an hour and you'll cruise 120 to plus miles an hour.
Okay. Okay, yeah, let's walk over here and take a look at this side here. So guys, we pulled the cowling off just to give you a look. It was on earlier, but we thought you might want to see just a little bit of the internals here and how well they've put this engine together, how well organized it is. It's beautiful to see in person for sure. So, okay, Zach, let's move on from the engine here for a second. Can you talk to me about these Acme shocks? And I noticed some of the planes in this hangar don't have them, and why you chose them for this airplane?
The Acme shocks is a very, very good suspension system. It has very good dampening and rebound characteristics for our plane. It's got a spring in there with high density oil, and it's also got a nitrogen charge. So it will definitely help with your bad landings. You don't realize you had a bad landing. You go back and fly, say, a Super Cub on traditional bungees, you'll recognize your bad landings, and you're like, I'm not as good a pilot as I thought I was because now I'm bouncing.
Sure.
That makes you a better pilot.
Okay.
One thing I did want to point out on the engine, though, that's very unique to our Cub is rear seat heat. So you have a rear seat heater for the passenger because everybody always gets cold in the Cub. This heater is anything but cold. If anything, it's too good of a heater.
Huh. Wow.
So you have a heat muff on either side. So there's 3 heat zones. You have a forced air defrost, pilot heat, and 2 adjustable eyes in the carbon fiber on the right or left-hand side for the passenger.
Okay. Have you guys had a chance to fly this in sub-zero temperatures?
They have flown it in sub-zero. I don't know what they found. I know Brad flew with his wife. Outside air temperatures were in the 20s,
Okay.
and they were flying in t-shirts.
Wow.
That's impressive.
That's very different from what I'm familiar with.
Yes, very much so.
Wow. Okay.
A question on, so like, the induction system is completely different than what I'm used to seeing on a Lycoming. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, this is proprietary to CubCrafters that we make it. Since it's fuel injected, it doesn't have the sump or the carburetor with on your intake up here on the. It is ready for floats if somebody wanted to put it on floats. It's a very simple change with this aircraft. It attaches to your gear point here. There's another gear float attach point back here that you cannot see until you have to actually attach it, and you bolt on 2 brackets through the side of the fuselage right there.
Okay. Is it a pretty simple process to put them on the first time, or is it going to take a while?
It takes a little bit. Your first float install will probably take, with rigging and everything, depending who's doing it, you get a nice, good shop to do it, a week or 2.
Okay.
They should be able to get it rigged up with everything prepped. After the first time it's installed, it's a weekend job
Yeah. Okay.
to go back and forth between skis, floats, gear, whatever you want.
Okay. What skis would you put on here? Do you know?
Summit,
Summit.
the Summit hydraulic skis.
Okay. Okay. Great. Well, I don't know about you, Aras, but I'm curious about this paint job. You guys have seen it quite a bit throughout this process. It turned out spectacular. So what I'd like to know is just what did this process look like? It's 3 tones, right?
It's 2 paints. So there's a black urethane paint, and then the polytone silver underneath. And the reason we did polytone is to save weight again. It's very durable and very easy to touch up if you were to scratch it as well.
Okay.
So it's paint. There is some vinyl. These accents here are vinyl. The end number is vinyl. But other than that, it's all paint.
So you talk about weight savings. It's hard for me to imagine paint weighs that much. What are you saving?
It depends on how much of the polytone you use. With this here, we probably saved 5 to 10 pounds.
5 to 10. Wow. Okay. So, guys, I want to direct your attention here. This is pretty cool. One of the things you all requested was this particular paint accent. So they have added the Big Dipper and then the North Star here, which I think looks fantastic. So, for those who might not know, can you talk about what these are?
Yeah, this is gap seal. This gives you more authority in your tail at slower speeds and keeps the tail from stalling at a much slower speed.
Okay.
It's one of the biggest improvements you can do to pretty much any Cub.
And it makes a pretty big difference.
Pretty big, yes. It's standard now on all of our new production aircraft, but that's how much of a difference it made. Just like BG's on the wing.
Sure. And that comes on all of your aircraft. these
Correct.
days?
Yep.
A question on the trim system, something I noticed, does not have a manual trim on it.
No, it's all electronic trim, that's correct.
And you've even got it in the rear seat, is that right?
Yep, rear seat trim control. You have a priority switch.
Yep.
So if you have somebody in the front that you're flying and you're comfortable instructing from the back, you can put the priority for the trim in the back, and you can override their input.
Okay, that's great. That's comforting. What are these?
These will be trim tabs.
Okay.
They didn't get brought over today. So you
Like-
guys will put those in tomorrow.
A lot like this.
Yeah, this is an adjustable trim tab to help it fly hands off straight.
Yep.
That is a composite, non-adjustable trim tab.
Okay, all right. So we've got, I believe it's a Scott 3200?
Yep,
Is that
Scott
right?
3200 steerable tail wheel.
Okay. And what are some options here? Could folks upgrade if they decided they wanted to?
Yeah, there's different rear tail wheels. You can get a T3 that's out there. Acme has their Stinger. You can put a baby bush wheel back there,
Okay.
and the baby bush wheel will work on a T3 or an Acme as well.
Okay. You guys, I want you to come over here for just a second and take a look at this angle. The paint is something else. You can almost see different parts of the hanger. It's so reflective. So, Zach, tell me about this mirror paint. What type of paint is it?
So this is a PPG paint. It's Delphi Evolution.
Okay.
It's single stage, so we get a very high sheen without a base and a clear coat.
Okay.
And that's also another reason to save paint, is not doing the base and clear.
Okay. All right. All right. Guys, let's walk around. Now, I know a lot of our members and those folks who are watching now are in Alaska, or they're thinking about being in Alaska. And with Cubs, of course, one of the most significant parts of flying is you want to stick stuff in the back.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about what we've got going in the baggage compartment?
Yeah, so it's got an extended baggage compartment. Your max capacity back here is 60 pounds, and right behind the seat you have a max capacity of 100 pounds. So you can put 160 pounds of baggage back here.
Okay. Could you remove the rear seat?
The rear seat is removable. It's a sling seat. It takes about 5 minutes to remove it.
And I thought you mentioned earlier there were some, what were the baggage attachment points? Baggage tie downs?
Yeah, there's tie downs all throughout the plane. 2 down here, 2 more up here,
Okay.
2 in the front up there. Whether you want to use straps or bungees to hold your luggage so it doesn't slide forward.
Okay. Now, Aras, will you get in there? Will you show them the flap handle? I just think this is really, really well done. So everybody come over here for a second. We're talking a lot about, and hang on just a second before you activate it, Aras. I want to show you guys this. So bring the camera over here for a second. See if you can see this. So you look at this aluminum. They have machined this in-house directly from a block of aluminum on both sides. And Aras, go ahead and drop those flaps. Yep. So the beautiful thing about these in-house machined parts is that they are exactly for this airplane. So you're not getting a part that's used on a multitude of different aircraft. It is designed for this airplane to make it operate efficiently. It's extremely durable. I just think it's an incredible feature. So on that note, Zach, we've talked about this before, but I think it bears repeating. What are the parts that are not manufactured in-house? Because I know most of them are, right?
Yeah, we make over 9,000 different parts in-house, including the bushings for the tail feathers that hold them together. Obviously, we don't make Alaska bush wheels. Let them do their thing. They're great at what they do.
Yep.
We don't make the brakes, the shocks, the engine, the prop, the avionics. The gear legs are made in-house. The wing is fully built in-house. The only thing that's outsourced is our spars. We make the wings. We make the billet hangers. Make all the ribs. The fuselage is fully constructed in-house from raw material. You guys actually helped build that.
Right. Yeah.
You got to put it in the jig.
That was incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot made in-house.
Yeah.
It's not always the cheapest way, but we think it's the best way.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, I'm looking at Aras in this airplane here, and it reminds me we were talking earlier about standard PA-18. This is wider, right?
Yeah, so this is 4 inches wider than a standard P-18 Cub.
Okay.
Which 4 inches doesn't seem a lot until you actually sit in one.
Yep.
And you feel how much more room you actually do have.
Yeah, it's significant. I sat behind Aras earlier, and I'm 6'1", and I felt quite comfortable.
Yeah.
Which was surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So Aras, do you feel claustrophobic? Do you feel like you can?
This is amazing. This is probably the most spacious Cub I've been in. I mean, it's like extremely comfortable. Everything's where I'd want it to be. Just plenty of room. My knees aren't hitting the panel.
And while you're talking about the panel is a little special. It's set up for IFR operation. No, it won't be IFR certified, but it is IFR capable. It can't be certified because it's an experimental Cub, but you have your G5 backup attitude indicator on the left. Your PFD is a G3X, and then you have a Garmin GNC 355 GPS comm. And you have a 305 dual axis autopilot.
What is it? What is dual axis?
So it's
Is it you pitch and yaw, or is it pitch and
pitch and roll. It's pitch and roll.
Okay.
There's no yaw dampener.
Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. So when you say it's IFR capable and not certified,
Right.
for those folks who may not be aware, does that mean it can be flown IFR?
You can fly IFR with this plane. You can file. It just won't be certified IFR for, like say a 172 or 182. It's not certified for the plane.
Okay, that makes sense.
To do IFR certification is very expensive,
Yeah, okay.
but it has the proper equipment to fly an IFR, and you can shoot GPS approaches and.
Okay. One of the things I noticed, guys, if you look at the back seat here, let's pan around. Let's look at this back seat. And Melissa, can you move that? There's a piece of fabric on the stick there, so I can see it. So this is the rear stick. You'll notice there is a switch on top. It's probably a little hard to see. That's that rear trim. And then up above that, on the side of the aircraft, is the throttle and then the propeller pitch control. And then one of the things that I thought was really impressive is the toe brakes.
Yep.
In the rear as well. Yep.
Yeah, toe brakes.
And I'm sure if you guys, if you win this airplane, the first thing you're going to want to do is to instruct out of it, right? But it is possible you could do it for sure. Yeah.
You can still instruct in an experimental, but you do have to get a special LOTA for the aircraft. And when I was talking about the rear seat heat, those two eyes right there on the side panel, those are adjustable to change off and on and direct the heat where you want.
That's cool. One of the things I love about Cubs is you can fly with the door open. Can you do that?
Yes, this plane can be flown with the door open up to, I believe, 86 miles an hour. You can't take off or land with it open, but once you're flying, you can drop the door and open the window.
Okay, all right. Okay, I'm looking at these brakes here too. What surprised me is these are double puck, right?
But this is a single puck that's on there.
It's a single puck. Okay.
Single puck, 1.5-inch brakes.
Okay, and why did you go with that instead of a double? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay.
This was spec'd out with Brad, and honestly, that may be something that needs to be changed. That we just may not have in stock.
Yeah. Okay.
Supply chain is real.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey Zach, I think you mentioned this before, but what was the gross weight of the aircraft?
The gross weight of FX-3 is 2,000 pounds.
Great.
The empty weight of this plane is 1174, I believe. So you have over 800-pound useful.
Perfect. That was another question that just came up as you answered that, so great.
Perfect.
And then this might be a question for you, Abby. We had a question earlier about where did we come up with this tail number?
Oh, well, 1951 was the year that the Airmen's Association was formed, so we wanted to incorporate that. I think AK speaks for itself, and 7 was available, so we wound up with 751 Alpha Kilo.
Great. And then, since this is an experimental aircraft, can you kind of tell us about what happens for fly time? Does there need to be any flight logged on it before we can fly it up to Palmer, Alaska?
Yeah, so phase 1 flight is the first 40 hours have to be flown off in a region designated by the DAR for the first 40 hours. And we get a 75-mile nautical radius. So we have a pretty big area, several private and public grass strips we can land at to fly that off.
Great. And Abby, do you know who's flying it up to Palmer yet, by chance?
Not yet. Working it out. Some details to work out. We're hoping that we'll be able to share that soon.
Great. And then, what's the size of the fuel tanks on this?
So there's it's 22 gallons per side. So you have 44 total with 40 usable. About 4 gallons gets trapped in the fuel system.
Okay.
Sweet.
So these look like some pretty sweet lights you've got. They're LEDs? Is that
LED,
right?
yep.
Okay. Is that all around the aircraft?
Yeah, the whole aircraft has LEDs.
Can we turn them on?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, you're not going to miss this one. That's fantastic.
Are those Wheelan lights?
They're Arrow, I believe.
Aero LEDs?
Yeah. No, these are the Wheelan. I think we put the arrows in the X-Cups.
Okay, folks, just a reminder, if you have questions, please ask them. We've got, you know, a pretty good opportunity here to talk with Zach about this aircraft. I know you'll have questions once you win it, so now is a good time to bring them up and we can get those answered for you. I think we should take one more quick look. We talked about this last time, Zach. Can you talk about that front stick and the specific design you guys chose?
Yeah, so we went through many iterations of making this front stick here.
Yeah.
Our biggest factor was comfort, because typically in a Cub you're reaching way down between your legs. So this is canted just in a little bit, right hand dominant obviously, but it's a full stick grip that's 3D printed. It sits up a little bit higher, so when you rest your arm on your thigh, it's right there, so it's totally comfortable for long flights.
Yeah, I could tell. We sat in here a little earlier, and it's phenomenally comfortable. Everything about this aircraft is comfortable, which is usually not synonymous with Cub. So that's pretty cool.
And then are these wigwag lights?
Yes, there is wigwag.
All right. And then what was, I know we already passed the engine here, but since we're in close proximity, what was the horsepower?
The horsepower is 186 horse.
Sweet.
Do you know much about the break-in process? Is there a particular type of flying that you do when you're breaking in an engine?
Yeah, the first time we fly it, we're going to run it at 75% power or more, full rich, for a minimum of 2 hours, unless there's an immediate airworthiness issue.
Okay.
We want to make sure we get the engine warm enough so we can start breaking it in. There's a whole Lycoming spec that we follow for the first 10 hours to break the engine in. Then we do the first oil change, send the analysis off to Blackstone, and then the second oil change we'll send it again to make sure our metals are coming down. We watch the oil burn as well, the oil consumption. That's a very good indicator when the engine's broken in.
Okay.
All right. And then
Go
speaking of this prop here, what's the weight difference between the 2 and 3 blade prop?
I don't know. So like I said, this is very, very new. This is the second one in existence right now.
Wow.
Sweet.
Did you hear that, folks? Get it here first.
So, okay, let's say hypothetically, I were to win the aircraft, which I can't. But if I could, I come out and I win this plane. I'm a little intimidated. Maybe I don't know how to fly this. Is there instruction available? How does that work?
So there is instructors. TAC Aero is one. They have 2 FX-3s that you can use and rent from them that they have loadas on. You can get instruction in this as you being the plane owner with your own plane with a licensed instructor.
Okay.
So if I wanted to buy this airplane, which I can't, what if I were to walk in off the street and say, build me something just like this? What is the retail value of an airplane like this?
So this plane probably has a retail value of about $360,000.
Wow.
That's great. And you guys have a waiting list.
Yeah, we're taking orders in spring of 2024.
2024.
Wow, that's great.
That's great. That's really awesome.
And it's only going to get pushed, I think, because we're just getting into the show season. So
Yeah. Selling like crazy. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Can you tell us what the difference between the FX3 and the EX3 is?
So the only difference in that is how it's built. So an EX3, CubCrafters manufactures all the parts, sends you the parts as a kit for you to assemble. An FX3, you as the builder come here and help us manufacture the parts, then we do the assembly tasks. So the EAB program's all task-based. So you can put the stick in as a task, or you can manufacture a prop as a task. It's very not weighted, so no matter what you do, it's 1 point for this or 1 point for that.
And you're talking about the sort of 51%?
The 51% rule, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so basically you have to tick off a certain number of those tasks.
You have to complete 51% of the task. Not 51% of the aircraft,
Right.
not 51% of the time, it's all task-based.
Yeah, and I think one of the greatest things about having been a part of this process is you really feel like you know the aircraft to some degree after participating,
Mm-hmm.
which is fantastic. And you have time to ask these questions, to inquire about different parts and how they're made as you go through that process. So if you're actually interested in purchasing one of these aircraft, I highly recommend that.
Well, and you guys saw as you went through every station where we actually make the parts for production aircraft or anything else, and you're in the shop where we make everything, so you get to see what's good or bad. We don't have you off in some little room hiding you from what we do.
No, yeah, I feel like I saw everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was impressive for sure.
Is there any difference in the parts quality between the FX3 and the EX3?
None. Part numbers are identical. It's just a certification process of how it was built. It's still EAB, 51%. If you build a kit, your LLC, you as an individual are the builder, just like in an FX. It's the same thing. It's just you complete more of the assembly tasks as a kit builder at EX3 as compared to more of the manufacturing tasks on an FX3.
Can we show off the battery box? in
Yeah.
this?
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah.
Something that is way different than a normal Cub.
Yeah, get that. So while they're doing this, guys, take a look at the quality of this seat. It is totally different than most Cub seats.
And while I've got you here, is there a pretty big price difference in the two different types of models?
Between an EX3 and an FX3?
Yep.
Yeah, they're.
That'd be good.
Oh, because we're hitting the brake. Go forward a little more.
Did you not build it right, Will?
I only have 2 cups of coffee, okay? Okay, so guys, come around here. Let's take a look at this. It's going to be a little bit of a tight squeeze, but this is pretty cool to see. Aras is going to hold it up for you. This is an awesome design, and I remember when this specific part was being poured, right, in the resin.
Yep.
So that means it's carbon fiber you're looking at there. I could be wrong, but it looks to me like it's right in line with your CG.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fantastic. So you
your
got
ELT and your Odyssey battery under there.
okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's just it's a neat feature to have it right there in front of you. Very accessible in case you need to do some maintenance. All right. So yeah, folks, again, if you're just tuning in, great time to ask some questions. Zach Davidson with CubCrafters is here answering your questions.
And then what did you say that the price difference was in the two different models?
Well, between an EX3 and an FX3?
Yes.
It really depends on what tools you don't have or what you decide to buy as a kit builder, but on average I'd say it's about 80,000.
Okay.
Which is more expensive?
The FX3, because our labor goes into building it,
Okay.
as you're the laborer building your EX3.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then do you know what the expected takeoff and landing at full weight is or will be?
Full weight, I would say takeoff will be, it's in the POH, I can't know off the top of my head, but it's somewhere around 100 feet.
Wow.
Full weight, landing probably just over that, maybe 150 feet.
How much of you were flying at Will?
About 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the things that I remember about this airplane, if you have a second, you go to YouTube and you just type in any of their aircraft and you watch them take off, it is an angle unlike anything I've ever experienced. So they really are quite phenomenal in their performance. Yeah.
What type of oil does this Cub use?
Aeroshell.
Okay.
So it's straight mineral oil until the engine's broke in, and then we go to a multi-weight, and it depends on what time of year or what climate you're in, which multi-weight you go with.
All right, guys, this is the time to ask your questions if you've got them. I know you guys have been asking some good questions.
So Zach, could you talk a little bit about the VGs and what they've done for this aircraft?
So we use the boundary layer VG kit. It helps dirty the air and keep it on the wing at slower speeds. So it helps you get a better angle of attack and come in slower. So it's really lowering the stall speed is what you're doing.
So it slows the stall speed down, gives you more control in your smooth.
Yep.
Okay. Which is what you're talking about with the gap seals as well?
Yeah, it's keeping the tail from stalling.
Okay.
So you can get a higher angle of attack slower and keep the tail from stalling.
Okay, great. Yeah, so Aras is going to lift this up for you guys. Just take a look at the, first off, admire the paint job, because it's beautiful. And then up here, you'll notice these are the VGs, if you're not familiar. What happens essentially is as the wind or the air itself is passing over the leading edge, it gets funneled through these VGs, which causes it to laminate to the wing longer than if they weren't there. So as it increases the angle of attack, it doesn't stall as quickly.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's a neat feature. And it goes with the gap seals, which if you remember the pieces of, are they rubber?
It's a high density foam.
High density foam that was between the elevator and the horizontal stabilizer.
Why
Well.
the snorkels on the gas caps?
Oh, good question.
Vented. So it's a vented, that's our ventilation
So yeah,
for the gas tank.
guys, if you come over here, it's kind of hard to see this, but it's a good question. So right up top here, and you might have to, let me take it. I got you. Up top, there's a little snorkel. It's a little hard to see there. So what it's doing is it's using ram air. So as the air comes from the front of the aircraft, it gets rammed and pressurized into the fuel tank there and keeps it from creating a vacuum, which would potentially stall out fuel from entering the, or cavitate fuel from entering the system. Plus, they just look kind of cool.
Required in these higher horsepower engines, right?
Yeah, and to that point, this does have a mechanical and electronic fuel pump.
Why would you want both?
So you don't want to starve the engine at full power.
Okay.
So the electronic fuel pump, turn it on, it draws it, as the mechanical only works with the RPM.
Okay. Yep.
And something I had a question on was for the electronic ignition, is there a backup to your main battery for that?
Yes, so there is a backup battery in here that you access from the interior panel for your battery. If you get a warning, you throw it on. If your main battery dies, it gives you about 45 minutes running one of the ignition modules. So you lose a little bit of power, but you can still fly the airplane safely. And then you have a backup IBBS battery for your avionics, which will give you about an hour. So you have about a half hour or 45 minutes to an hour to find some place safe to land.
So you got 45 minutes of flight, and then you keep your avionics for the 15 minutes that you glide to the
Yeah,
airport.
yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we've got a couple other questions here. So, did you use the tail strake from the boundary layer kit as well?
No, the tail strake's not there. The only place that gets the tail strake is on our our top cub for floats.
Okay. And how difficult is it to remove or reinstall the engine cowling?
It's very simple. Something we did on this specifically is limit or reduce the amount of screws in the engine cowl. So typically there's a lot more. I think there's 5 on either side of the engine cowl.
Guys, take a look at this cowl here. First off, again, notice the paint job.
Yeah, there's 5 screws on either side, and there's 9 going across the top, and then across the bottom.
Look at that beautiful cowling.
But you don't even have to remove the whole cowl, just the top to do an oil change, and you can drop this bottom layer or a gill to get to the oil drain. It's very light.
These
Very
things
light.
are extremely light compared to a stock Cub.
It's like one-handed lift here. And do you know what the dirty stall speed is?
I don't know what the dirty stall speed. Power on stall, 0 wind, you'll be in the 30s.
Okay, guys, one more time. Last chance for questions here. We're looking at the FX-3 with Zach Davidson with CubCrafters. They're here in Yakima, Washington at their headquarters. Wrapping up the build tomorrow. We'll be certifying the airplane with the FAA before it comes up to Alaska.
Tomorrow you get grilled.
We get grilled. The airplane's check ready tomorrow.
Yeah.
I just want to remind everybody how to get tickets. It is just after 3 o'clock in Alaska. So, what's that? Alyssa's making hand motions at me. You can call right now in Alaska, 907-245-1251. We have people answering calls until 5 o'clock Alaska time. So it's $65 for 1 ticket, 5 tickets for $300, or 10 tickets for $550. You can win a beautiful avionics prize from Northern Lights Avionics, a radio from Pacific Coast Avionics. There's just a ton of great prizes, alaskaairmen.org. So check that out. Thank you to Alaska Airlines. We really appreciate being able to bring the whole team down here. This has been an amazing experience. Please stay tuned to our social media for the rest of the week. We're getting a ton more footage of the factory and the team here. And then, of course, you can see the airplane with the cowling on it. It looks even more beautiful and amazing. So stay tuned. Buy tickets. Thanks for joining us.
And we've got just one more question here. I think
was
it's
that hand motion, wasn't it?
specifically for Zach. Do you guys make a belly pod?
There is a belly pod. There's a couple manufacturers out here that make belly pods. You can get cargo or fuel from Blue Arrow. Carbon Concepts makes a belly pod for us as well. They have cargo and fuel, and I'm hearing rumors that he's doing cargo and fuel.
Nice.
And the fuel gives you an extra 30 gallons.
Wow.
So you can have a total of 70 gallons usable.
It's impressive.
Okay, folks, thanks for tuning in. We will see you with this airplane in Alaska.